Welcome to the Board of Education meeting November 17th, 2021. I'd like to establish a quorum and call this meeting to order.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini. And Board Member C. Barry Nochbar will be joining us shortly.
May I please receive a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda. Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Before adjourning to closed session, the board will go ahead and identify the closed session items and will accept public comment on these items. Closed session agenda item A, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. Closed session agenda item B is public employee discipline dismissal release complaints pursuant to Government Code 54957. Seeing there's no public comment, we will go ahead and adjourn to closed session. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here in a minute. Can you, is this on? Poncho, can we go ahead and get started?
Oh my God.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started for this evening's Board of Education meeting on November 17th, 2021. As we reconvene to open session, we'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance with Lila Glazier.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. So as we've returned into open session from closed session, I'd like to go ahead and report out the actions taken in closed. For closed session, agenda item 2A, in closed session, the board provided direction to the district representatives regarding item 2A, conference with the labor negotiator on the closed session agenda. And as for item 2B in closed session, the board by unanimous vote 5-0 approved a settlement agreement regarding a resignation of one classified manager. The statutory revocation period has passed and the resignation and agreement are final. This is regarding item 2B, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaints on the closed session agenda. I'd like to notify our audience here that's live and also viewing us online that we are being recorded and this meeting will be viewable on YouTube at a later date and time if you need to do so. At this point, we'll move on to agenda item 3D. This is public comment on non-agendized and open session items. I'd like to notify members of the public that you may address the board regarding items on the open session agenda or topics that are within the board's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda at this time. I'd also like to remind the public that we're taking all public comment right now up front. We will not stop along the way during the agenda items to take public comment. Should you have a question or a comment come up while we move through the agenda items, please feel free to fill out a comment card. They're on the table by the door. You can leave them on the table or give them to Tricia Zarovich, and all comment cards will be reviewed and looked through with the Board of Education. Oh, sure. So with that, I'll remind our audience here, if you'd like to make a public comment, please take a number and we will go ahead and start calling people up one by one. Okay. Okay, so as we move into public comment, I'd like to remind everybody that as we move into public comment, the Board of Education is committed to maintaining a respectful and productive environment that fosters a culture of civility where the staff and our community and our fellow board members feel free to express themselves. The board welcomes your comments and requests that you express yourself accordingly. This evening, members wishing to address the Board of Education are allotted 3 minutes. You cannot delegate your time to another speaker. And please indicate the agenda item or topic that you would like to speak to the Board of Education on. So with that, I will go ahead and take A36 as our first speaker.
I guess I'm 36, and with old age, I have to put my glasses on, so. First of all, thanks to Ted. I really want to acknowledge his efforts and his appreciation for collaboration, transparency, and willingness to listen and engage with the broader community. That really has meant a lot, I think, to most of the folks that are here. We have to acknowledge that the draft EIR process has been absent of an in-depth working scope of work. So acknowledging that and that socialization and that community engagement hasn't been properly done is important because we now have to move forward towards a solution-based discussion. So Ted, perhaps you can be a local community hero because you have been given a hard task to untangle this messed up process that you've been handed. We do need leadership at this point to help bring together diverse stakeholders to find common solutions that really meet everybody's needs. We do feel that we are headed in a more positive direction for those solutions. We've had some really good conversations, I think, with Ted and his earnest ability to try to understand what is going on with the community. But at the end of the day, what really matters are results and measurable outcomes that really address the problems and the challenges we've been trying to highlight with a lot of frustration. So in preparation for tonight's agenda, I had provided the CUSD board members an email, and in that email there was an attachment of a visual report of the current safety issues of parking and traffic that we are all currently feeling based around the surrounding residences of Carmel High. We do believe that this is because of the build-up that's been happening out at the school. It took us less than a few days for the residents to pull together the facts. I think we don't want to be perceived as as a group that's not emotional and really aren't talking from truth and actuality. We request that this visual report be included and accessible to the public records as part of the agenda and be connected to the draft EIR status update, because if you don't address the current issues that are happening on our streets, it's only going to be compounded when these safety issues really happen in the dark. So our reoccurring themes of what needs to be addressed are consistent. Nothing has changed. Safety and public vehicle and foot traffic access. We don't want anybody to get injured. Light pollution in the context of glare associated with the lights. We are not LA. Addressing the Civic Center Act. I think it might be surprising to some folks that you are currently renting out the swimming pool to private entities. And so how are you going to prevent that for similar activity for night events in order to control, I think, what's happening during the night? Certainly also on the nocturnal habit and environmental concerns as well. So we do look forward to productive discussions. Thank you.
For the record, I'd like to note that each board member has received the aforementioned email with the pictures, key concerns, and other details included. Speaker number 37, please.
My name is Joe. I live in behind Carmel High School. I agree with everything that Fran had said. I think a key is safety, and another key is the lighting, the impact that it'll have in our neighborhood. So I'd like to see the board or whoever is appropriate to go back and really look at those issues a little more in depth. Bringing a lot of people into the neighborhood at night is, not a good thing. So again, I'd like to see a little more, kind of engagement done to look at those issues of safety and lighting. Thank you.
Speaker number 38, please.
Hello, I'm Joanne Holbrook, and I'm here to speak on the lights, and thank you, board, for your work and time. I see that the stadium lights, that the school and the students see the stadium lights as a good idea. I see for the neighbors and many community and former students, they do not see this as a good idea. At the last meeting here, I asked if any of you had read or listened to the October 6th comments on the community meeting, and a few raised your hand. And I ask you again, how many of you have listened to those comments? And you do not need, I know you do not need to answer or show visual response. But if you have not listened to that meeting, please, you need and must hear those. And I take it off the cuff. Those are the kickback responses from the community. Also, the one-page article in the Pine Cone that really gives a good outline of all the major concerns and the valuable concerns that the community and neighbors have. And from the meetings I've been to, so this is my third time, there are some phrases that have been coming back in my head, and one phrase, and they upset me. So Carmel Unified School District and Carmel High School is not responsible for people parking off campus or how fast the people or students drive around the back of the school. Another one is that the lighting on the east side of the school is like a prison with blinding lights into the community homes there. This is a problem because you promote activities that require attendees to use off-site parking and access routes that are not adequate for the number of people attending. You don't have enough on-site parking. So this is a current problem in the daytime. So begin with this daytime problem and get a value of or a norm of doing the shuttle. You're talking about doing a shuttle for the nighttime parking. Well, it's not going to happen unless a norm gets started. So start doing it now with the students and let that become a norm so that when the lights are considered for the field, if and when they do really might happen, that is already in place. That norm of that shuttle is in place, and there's safety for all. My husband, I read him these, and he said, "Oh, you didn't use please enough," because I am pleading. And also I noticed in the last time when those who, I've got to finish my sentence, that those who were supporting the field's light that do not acknowledge the concerns of the community and safety issues and how to solve them.
Speaker number 39, please.
I wanted to start off saying sorry because my voice is going to get very shaky. I'm very nervous right now. But good evening. My name is Alexis Soriano, and I am a senior here at Carmel High School. I play football and soccer at the high school. I'm here speaking on the importance of adding lights to the field. Lights would help keep our athletes safer. Currently, there are 3 teams that practice on grass at Carmel Middle School and Carmel Valley High School. Grass fields can be dangerous due to the uneven playing surfaces caused by rodents, rain, and erosion. Lights could enable more teams to practice and play at the high school on a level playing field that is not subject to wear and tear of Mother Nature. Additionally, when teams practice at Carmel Middle School and Carmel Valley High School, they do not have access to sports med room or Mr. Borg's healthcare expertise. When injuries occur, the athletes only have access to the med kit and first aid care of the coaches. Lights would help athletes in the classroom. Currently, our home games have to start at 3:15. We are excused from class an hour and a half before games to dress and safely warm up. These start times cause students to miss valuable class time. This can cause well-meaning students to fall behind. Lights would enable later start times, which would allow students to be in class longer. Lights help athletes make connections. Currently, I drive 2 hours every day to go back and forth to school. Sports enable me to meet friends that I would not potentially meet in classrooms in my day-to-day activities. My day has started at 5:10 a.m. for the last 6 years. One of the things that makes my time and effort so rewarding is playing sports. Next year, Carmel High School will be legally required to start school later. As a consequence, a kid like me will not have to get up at 5:10 a.m. However, without lights, a kid like me may not be able to play sports and make connections in my school community because there will be no place to practice or play. I ask all decision makers to consider this as you move forward with the lights issue. Thank you for your time.
Speaker number 40, please.
Yeah, my voice is kind of low, so I've been urged to use the microphone this time. Speak up. Thank you, board, for letting us be here. It's all about being good neighbors, and it's all about transparency and raising awareness and being thorough about projects that we undertake. If there's one big takeaway I think you're going to all have from tonight, it's going to be that community involvement and bringing these diverse stakeholders together for creative solutions is really going to be able to get us somewhere. Ted Knight, as Fran said, has set the tone for collaboration this evening. He's not just been doing it tonight when you get the update on the EIR. He's been doing it for several weeks. He's been communicating with us by email and by phone. Not everybody in here is aware of that or what we've said, but he's got some great ideas. And he's brought in other responsible agencies, an EIR term, to help us with some of those community concerns that have been flagged. So you're going to hear some really positive and encouraging things tonight, and I think that's great. Nobody wants, court battles and like our nearby Monterey Unified School District's been going through for the last couple of years. As you've heard from previous commenters before this body, our primary concerns are really foot and vehicle traffic at night, along with parking in our neighborhood and residential streets. Ted recognizes this one, that it's both a current and a potentially future problem if night activities are going to be conducted. So we think the county planning folks are now on board and kind of more aware than ever before, as we want to be in on the discussions with them as well to address. And if the county allows an unsafe condition created by others, they become liable. So they really have a vested interest to be part of the solution. I think a better traffic study probably needs to occur. And likewise, the law enforcement folks are also other responsible agencies that have got to step up with their plans. And notwithstanding the California Civic Center Act that Fran mentioned that allows other public entities to use Carmel High School facilities we would still like to see some limitations of use to avoid, excessive activities. Maximizing the on-campus parking, Ted's working on that. Shaping behaviors for the folks who still want to park off the campus, enforcing the same. That's going to go a long way to alleviating not just a nuisance, but a genuine safety concern for our kids and their families. We want our kids to have all that they want in the way of sporting events and those things that are healthy to growing up. Ted's already been in touch with the dark sky light certification people too. He's recognized the kind of lighting that's over the pool right now and what can be installed at the stadium. And so he's, I think, going to do his best to alleviate that. So, we've really moved positively, I think, in the last month or so, and we really appreciate that. But trust is earned and easily lost. So we know that today's handshake deals are about, they're transient. So look forward to some good collaboration with you folks.
Speaker number 41, please. Going once for number 41. Number 42.
Hello, good evening. Thank you all for listening to our concerns tonight. My name is Maureen McEachin, and I'm a resident in Carmel Views. Been there since 2004. One of the things that made us as a family decide to make that our home is the view of Point Lobos, of the bay, and we've coexisted with the high school and the lights, and we fully support the intention, I think, behind the lights, the stadium lights, but I have a concern. I don't think that it's being, or at least I haven't heard it in some of the comments. Looking at the EIR report from Vantage Point 4, the height of the lights breaks the tree line, and they obstruct the view of the ocean and Point Lobos. So if this project proceeds, I'm hoping that there's a way to at least make that, someone suggested balloons, visible to the community so we understand what we're losing in terms of beauty, in terms of potential property values in years to come. So I don't know the answers, but again, I wanted you to consider that point. And I hope everyone can hear me okay. Thank you to everybody that's come out tonight and talked about their concerns as well. But all of them equally as important, so thank you.
Number 43, please.
Good evening, board and neighbors. Thanks for this opportunity, and I learned a lot already this evening about progress made, and I feel there's a whole lot more that needs to be done. Like the previous speaker, my family lives in Carmel Views, and we really have seen a lot of change over the last 30-odd years. We would like to try our best as a community and in partnership with the Board of Education and Carmel High School to minimize any spillover lighting concerns. We have direct lighting, line of sight lighting that should be modeled. By rough guesstimate, I think we have 40 to 50 properties that have direct line of sight of the pool lights presently. And adding more lights in addition to the pool lights, in addition to the lighting at the rear of the school, with concern for future improved parking spaces there, where there would be moving lights before daylight hours and after the sun goes down, really are things that should be addressed And we would like to invite any and all board members to take a trip and drive up to our neighborhood and to poke around and to see what you can see of the high school and surrounding properties. We would very much appreciate a dark sky certification, any kind of technology that would minimize light spill and to focus lights where needed. We certainly want to support the students, but we also realize that many of us have been here for decades, and we need to assure that for future students and future residents in the area that we minimize any impacts that they might experience. So we look forward to working together, and again, I applaud the progress that's been made since October 6th, and we just need to go ahead and keep working, find the right solution, apply it, and make sure everybody is equitably treated in the process. So thank you very much.
Speaker number 44.
Hi, thanks for letting us be here. I am a resident of Carmel Views also, and have a very nice view of Point Lobos. Feel very blessed to have that. When the pool lights are on and Carmel High is lit all in the back, which I'm not quite sure why that is. I guess people drive back there now. It never used to be that way. Seems as though a lot of foliage has been taken down, trees, because now the view of the back of the high school is very dramatic and not very aesthetic. So I'm not in favor of stadium lights. I'm not in favor of the amount of traffic that it would pull in at night. Now that I live in the Views, I'm more aware of lights and the pool lights. I used to live behind the ball field at Carmel High and was aware of the traffic when baseball was going on, and the noise level. No problem with that. Traffic, a problem because it seems as though young drivers drive incredibly fast and do kind of prankish things as well. I'm wondering if the county or state strip that students used to park in a decade or so ago, probably illegally, could be used again on a permit basis just for games. If one could get permission from the state or county for the use of that land so that the neighborhood beyond the school wouldn't be affected. We have a lot of fog all year round. The difference between pool lighting on a clear night goes straight up. When the fog is there, it spreads out and stays low and kind of obliterates. It has a very ominous look. Parking's always been an issue. I would think attendance would be up greatly with night games, and the danger and safety, I think, is quite a concern. Thank you.
Speaker number 45.
Good evening. It's my first opportunity to address you as a group, although I have attended a couple of meetings. My name is Gordon McCormick. I live on Flanders Drive, which is right behind the high school. I've been there for 29 years. I have seen the high school evolve. The problems we're facing today have no relationship to those we faced 29 years ago. Things have changed dramatically. In what way? Traffic, speeding, trash, all right? The open drug use. I walk regularly down Flanders Drive, and regularly I am both watching drug use and smelling it, all right? This is a regular phenomenon. It's become part of our neighborhood, all right? Now, a point was made some weeks ago at our original meeting that we are neighbors, and this places limits on each of us. In my experience, the high school has not demonstrated a recognition that, in fact, it also faces limits. We have tolerated this during the day for years, mostly without complaint. What you propose to do now is flip it into the evening as well. And at that point, it becomes intolerable, because not only will we be facing these problems in the day and then again at night, but the problems we're going to face at night are magnified, all right? Whatever happens during the day, you can bet is going to happen 3 or 4-fold during the night. And from my point of view, and those of the neighbors, this is an intolerable situation. Thank you.
Speaker number 46, please. That's the last ticket number I have. Is there anybody else that would like to address the Board of Education with public comment?
I've got 47. I've been listening, let me back up. I've lived on North Carmel Hills Drive for 32 years. And I have put up with, in some cases, with back to school night, welcomed the traffic issues that have bedeviled people living on Carmel Hills Drive. We have tolerated this with an average of 9 or 10 days of impossible parking. That is the breaking point. The concern here is obviously the increase in events in the evening created by the opportunity for football, soccer, and other kinds of events. Now, there are a number of parking solutions that have been proposed. I have tried without any success in getting the highway patrol to place tickets on cars when they've been egregiously violating parking. And in fact, in the photographs, you saw examples of that. I have had no response from the highway patrol. In fact, when I do get a response, there are more important issues to be dealing with. We're short-staffed, we're patrolling a very large area. Now, if indeed we try to use some kind of enforcement on Friday evenings, the highway patrol, which has jurisdiction over this area, is stretched even more thin because a lot of mishaps wind up occurring in the evening time. Consequently, dealing with illegal parking, making it difficult to get emergency vehicles through, which is a safety issue, which I've talked about a number of times before, I don't see the remedy to that, particularly given that a lot of the illegal parking is, in my estimation, by the parents of visiting teams who aren't aware of what might be norms here. And so with the Aptos game, the most recent, which really wasn't half bad compared to pre-COVID, most of the illegal parking was on the Aptos side of the house. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else that would like to address? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ruby Carr. I am a senior at Carmel High, here to support the student body. I apologize if my thoughts are scattered. I was not planning on speaking tonight. However, I am passionate about my school. I am a 3-sport athlete. 2 of those sports, field hockey and lacrosse, are affected by the lack of lights, as well as, of course, our other sport programs. For field hockey, halfway through our season, our practice time is cut in half, or cut by 30 minutes, due to the lack of light for winter. When our start time for next year is, or for fellow students, when the start time is pushed to 8:45, I am curious how fall sports will have full practice times without lights on the field. As well, I want to speak for lacrosse I play. Girls and boys are pushed to the Carmel Valley field, which is a grass field, and oftentimes I have had players, and the boys have had players, have gotten hurt because of the field. When we have a field here that we can have lights at. I also want to propose, I don't know if this has already been mentioned, but for football games or other sports, if we had a bus that could take students from here to the games, I think that would help the parking possibly, because there's plenty of parking here and people can park here and then have a bus take them here and back. Also, speaking on behalf of soccer players, they are playing in the dark, their practices as well. And to reiterate what Alexis said, when school time is later, we will be taken out of school earlier for sports, taking away more of our education because we do not have lights on the field, so that our games can be later, so that we can, I think you understand what I was trying to get across. That's all. Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the Board of Education with a public comment? Okay. Thank you for everybody who spoke this evening and for sharing your thoughts. We'll move on to agenda item 3E. This is student representative ACT CSCA comments and a comment from the superintendent and also the Board of Education roundtable. We'll go ahead and start this evening with our student representative, Hannah Philly.
Hello. So, first of all, I really appreciate everyone continuing to come out and be very, very poised and have really good discussions. And I think that this is going in a very, very positive direction. I'm very excited about that. But as for the students at the high school, this past month has been really fun and really spirited. Padre parents actually just surprised us today at break with donuts, and I think that it was a really good start going into the giving season and break and everything. And I know that everyone had a really good break, and I got to talk with a lot of people who I usually don't, which was really, really nice. And we've also had the CASA gift drive ongoing for the past 2 or 3 weeks. And I've noticed a lot of participation within all the grades, and there's been lots of advertisements from the teachers in a lot of my classes, which has been really, really good. And I think it's a really good cause. And we've also had shoe drives and snack drives, and I think it's just really encouraging and celebrating everyone around the school, and that's been really, really nice. And then this Friday, we also have a Friendsgiving, and all the clubs are coming together and donating $5, and they're hoping to raise actually, I think it's $500 all to go to the food bank, and that'll be another really good community building thing with all the clubs and any group of people who want to come together and do that. And then, of course, we have winter sports that have been starting up. Really, really good turnout. Thank you. And it's been really fun. I know a lot of people have been really, really excited about getting back to their winter sports. And then we also have our first indoor dance show coming this week. And there's been lots and lots of excitement. And I think that that's been really hard earned. And they've been working really hard I'm really excited to go see it on their stage with the lighting, and everything's going to fully come together, and I think everyone's really, really proud of them. And also, I've been hearing a lot about the tutoring in the library before finals, and I think that's been going really well. I know it's kind of a new thing this year, but I think it's been really productive, and I'm really, really happy for everyone who's gotten to participate in that. And that's all. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Hannah. Super loud. Excuse me. All right, we'll move on to updates from our association representatives. We'll go ahead and start with the Association of Carmel Teachers. I'm sorry, Bill. For those of you leaving, I just wanted to mention that the superintendent will be giving an update on the EIR, and that is coming up on the agenda. So I just wanted you to know that's coming up, and you can listen to it on the YouTube if you'd like.
Bill Schreier, President of the Association of Carmel Teachers. Boy, that got loud. I just wanted to give a perspective from ACT about how the bargaining process has been going. And I'm going to echo what some of these folks said over here about the superintendent. Very collaborative. We've had some really good conversations. I think that we've all come together. It's really nice to have CSEA in the room with us, and it seems like it's really productive and time well spent. So thank you.
Great. Good to hear that, Bill. Thank you for that update. Do we have a representative from CSCA this evening for an update? Okay. We will move on to the superintendent update from you, Mr. Knight.
Thank you. I'll keep my updates brief since I've got a few presentations coming soon. But just with the Thanksgiving holiday, I wanted to make sure that I take an opportunity to give thanks to all of the wonderful people in our community. Had an opportunity to meet several students over the past week. Had a meeting with our student advisory group candidates and a few other students, and I'm just continue to be amazed at how passionate, articulate, and talented our students are. We get to see one every month, and there's a lot of them out there. Also want to thank our staff members for the work that they continue to put in for our students. Our teachers, support staff, and administrators often do thankless jobs, and I just want to let them know how much we appreciate them. I want to thank our parents and our community. I had an opportunity this morning to sit with the Carmel Business Roundtable, and we're so fortunate to have many of them as partners in our community. And I also want to acknowledge the engagement that we've had in regards to the Stadium Light project. Many of these comments and the constant engagement have allowed us to refine our processes and make sure that we find a win-win for our student, staff, and community. And finally, I'd like to thank our Board of Education. I don't know that many people who want to volunteer their time during a pandemic to help improve our community through education. So these 5 people, whether you know it or not, spend countless hours doing a very thankless job. And so as we head into Thanksgiving, I want to publicly thank them for their service. Concludes my reports.
Thank you so much, Ted. Moving on to Board of Education updates. We'll start in order here. I'll start with you, Carl.
Not much to report, but it is good to see everybody here that has concerns and interests about what we are doing. And it's also good to acknowledge the transparency that I think you're seeing in terms of the superintendent and what we're trying to get done. So I'm going to keep this very short and move to the next person.
Seabury?
Yeah, I would also like to thank everyone for coming out and making your comments public and letting us know your concerns. We are certainly listening, and I appreciate both sides, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I wanted to say that I had the opportunity to go to the Carmel High School Student Art Expo, which was fabulous. It was an opportunity for one day to highlight student artists from all over the Monterey Peninsula. They also kind of learned from one another. There was peer feedback and comments about the art, and it was just an incredible opportunity for me to be able to see some of the incredibly talented high school students that are on the Monterey Peninsula, and in particular at the Cromwell High School. So that was a very special treat for me. I really enjoyed it, and I thank you for the invite. I also participated in the Carmel River School PTA meeting that was a couple weeks ago. The reason I participated in it is because there were 3 or 4 students, elementary school students, that were speaking to the PTA. I wanted to be there to support student voice. I really believe strongly in making a space for students to feel comfortable. And I do have to give credit to Mr. Martin for providing a space for that to happen, where the students felt like they could voice their concerns and their opinions in a very safe environment. And I'm sure many of the teachers there at River School and all of our schools are very supportive of student voice. But that was a good opportunity for me to listen. I think listening is something that doesn't happen sometimes. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Anne-Marie?
Hello. First of all, I wanted to say my light is on, but I have my barnyard voice. Alrighty, I wanted to thank John for having an in-depth discussion about my very favorite topic of education and what he thinks that education is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm always intrigued to hear other people's opinions about that, so I wanted to thank you very much for that. I wanted to pass along on December 2nd that the 5 to 6 p.m. there's going to be a look around for the Mental Health Wellness Center at the high school. I was very, very impressed when I was there. Man, I wanted to stay for quite a while and just get back and just hang out there. It was a wonderful place to be. So thank you for my fellow board members for putting money out for it. I think it's great. You should go see it. You really should. I wanted to address to the community that since COVID is on around us, all around us, I have been not spending a lot of time on campuses, but I have been going around campuses, seeing how they're working, seeing how the traffic's going. So I want to thank you for pointing that out for us, and let you know that if I'm cruising around, I'm not scoping out your neighborhood for some other reason. I'm just trying to see what it looks like with everybody moving around and how they're going around and getting around, especially during our congested times. And I wanted to just reiterate what Seabury had said, that we are listening. At least I am listening. I know that. I'm sure that my other board members are listening to what you're having to say. Your opinion is very, very important to us. So thank you very much, and I hope that you absolutely have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Tess?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Craig and his team for, in honor of Veterans Day, they went around to all the sites and honored all of our veterans within the district. And I just thought that was a beautiful support of them and their service. Thank you for your service. I know there are a few of you in the room tonight. I also noticed that Miguel from Tularcitos is retiring in December. And having worked at Tular for a long time, I just appreciate his character, his kindness, his work ethic. And Ryan, I know that is a huge loss for Tularcitos. So I just wanted to shout out to him, where he's going to be sorely missed. And thank you, Ryan, for letting me participate in the Halloween parade as Cher. It was really fun to see the community coming together and coming out for that event. So I thank you. And I thank all of you for coming tonight. I think it shows the passion that we have for our community. And I just want to applaud Ted, who's extremely collaborative. And I just thank you for your vision, Ted. It really means a lot. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, fellow board members. I'll keep my update quick because I know we want to move along with the agenda here. I wanted to thank Jessica and Ted and the others that are involved in putting together the Student Advisory Committee. We are all very excited that that is getting off the ground. So thank you all for your hard work with that. And thank you to all of the students that have submitted applications to be a part of that group. We really appreciate it. This board, as we talk about a lot, is committed to facilitating student voices. So we are looking forward to getting that off the ground and seeing all the good work that comes out of it. I also wanted to thank River School for having me at their Halloween parade, and I'm looking forward to additional site visits post-Thanksgiving. As Anne-Marie mentioned, I haven't been on sites recently, so I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of things doing that. Thank you, Craig, as Tess said, for honoring all of our veterans. The email that went out to the Board of Education and our staff honoring all of the veterans that we have was really, really remarkable. So thank you for taking the time to put that together. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank everybody for our last few meetings with all of the community engagement, the student engagement. The board's been very engaged in our discussions. So I just would like to thank all of you for some very productive meetings that have been happening, and I'm hoping that we can keep this momentum going forward. So with that, I will move on to the consent calendar. So this is agenda item number 4, where the board bundles a number of items and acts upon them together in one motion through the use of our consent calendar. Consent agenda items are routine items deemed to be non-controversial for which board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. May I please get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve this consent calendar.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines?
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur?
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar?
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini?
All right, moving on to agenda item number 5. These are action, discussion, and information items. So as I just mentioned, this board is committed to facilitating and hearing our student voices. So agenda item number 5A is the Carmel Middle School and Carmel High School Environmental Club student presentation on environmental responsibility. So Ted, do you want to go ahead and introduce this agenda item, and then we'll call it the speakers?
You bet. Thank you.
Presenters.
Yes, so recently I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Steele and Mr. Moss Baldwin to discuss ways in which our environmental club might be able to start affecting change. I believe tonight our students are going to encourage us to keep sustainability and a focus on the environment in our core ideology. So as we're working on refining our mission and values, I believe they're going to help encourage us to make sure that being good stewards of the environment continues to be something that drives our work. So let's hear from our students.
Yeah. Okay, hi. Thank you guys for having us.
Welcome.
We're here to talk about what Mr. Knight said, just the environment and what we believe our responsibility is to it. So I'm Heather. I'm a junior at Carmel High School. I'm in leadership and environmental club.
Hi, I'm Lila. I'm in 8th grade at Carmel Middle School, and I'm in the environmental club and the leadership class.
Hello, I'm Montana. I'm in 8th grade and I'm in the environmental club.
Hello, I am Rain. I am in 8th grade and I am in the environmental club.
Hi, I'm Nana and I'm in 8th grade and I'm in leadership in the environmental club.
You can do the next slide. So first we wanted to talk about kind of our district awards because we are very unique in that aspect. We have a lot going for us. First of all of our CUSD schools are Ocean Guardian schools, which means we have a good commitment and protection of conservation of watersheds, the ocean, and marine sanctuaries. It's pretty cool to have. We're also National Green Ribbon District, which is very unique and highly praised. It basically means we have good education systems in place surrounding the environment and sustainability, as well as good resource conservation and efficiency. And we just wanted to highlight this because not a lot of districts have as many awards as us, so it means we're doing something right, and as students, we're proud to be part of that.
So our district's mission values, which I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with, but I'll read it again. Our current mission statement is that the Carmel Unified School District community produces lifelong learners who are prepared for the challenges of higher education, the workplace, and their role as citizens of an ever-changing global community. To us as students, we think this relates directly back to sustainability and the environment in the part where it says an ever-changing global community. Because our environment is constantly transforming, and I mean the obvious one is climate change, but there are so many different ways, smaller and bigger, in which it's in constant motion. And we believe that our methods should also be in constant adaptation if we want to best protect and preserve our environment. One of our current board beliefs is that we believe that we have a responsibility to the environment. So with this and the mission statement, it's pretty obvious that all of you guys care a lot about the environment, and our district as a whole, students and staff, also care a lot about the environment. But there is always room for improvement, and that is why we are here to look for ways in which our actions can better support these statements.
CMS is a wonderful school. It provides students with a rich and fulfilling education. Through the trials and tribulations we had to face due to COVID, CMS was always ready to help students with anything we needed. That being said, there was always room for improvement in both mindset and action.
So us students at CMS have recognized several problems going on, such as food waste, excess trash, and lots of litter. We know that this plastic comes from the school lunches and our lunches that we bring from home, but we also need to work together to make sure that this isn't a problem and we take care of it. We want to raise more awareness of these types of problems because we want to be able to protect our environment and reduce our carbon footprint.
Around late September of this year, our school did a mini trash audit. It wasn't as large as the one performed at the high school, but it did perform lots of useful yet jarring info. On this slide, you can see the data that we found collected from only 2 trash cans and 1 day's worth of waste. This waste is from the lunches and the snacks mostly provided by the school. On the bottom right corner, you can see just all the trash that was collected that is just going to go to the landfill. And in the top left area, you can also see in the middle picture is the food that is just unused and can still be eaten. It's just thrown away. And then in the very left side, those tubs are the only thing that can be recycled out of all of that. We understand that our school is doing its best in these trying times. As students, we would love to see a change in the amount of non-recyclable waste that is being produced. We can take this as an opportunity to work with administration to lessen the waste flow. An idea that I came up with was to let the students pick what they can have for lunch instead of handing them pre-packaged food. This wouldn't lessen the amount of plastic being produced, but it would lessen the amount of food just being thrown away that's perfectly useful. So instead of the students throwing the food away, they can just not pick it in the first place. As CMS students, we see the changes and efforts put into the quality of the food. But as you continue to think about your goals for this district, we ask you to think about the environment and the quantity of trash being put out. We want to know if there are ways to control the waste being put out.
So we as CMS students would really like to see the environment incorporated into the revision of our district's goals, mission, and value. It's not just food waste that's impacting our environment. We understand that. We'd also like to highlight our carbon footprint and the inordinate amount of paper waste produced by some of the supplies that our system uses. We understand that COVID has been hard for everyone, but we feel that we're not currently living up to the standard that has been set by the many awards pertaining to the environment that we have. And most importantly, we're just not living up to the standard that we have set for ourselves. I'm actually new to CMS myself, and when I found out that they prioritized environmental health, I was really excited. This is just such a warm and welcoming district, and it's a wonderful place but in all places there's room for improvement. We live in such a beautiful and eco-friendly area, and we definitely don't want to take it for granted because climate change is happening now and we have a part to play.
Thank you. So similar to CMS's waste audit, CHS conducted a waste audit just last week because Environmental Club had noticed that there's excess waste and trash on campus that could probably be avoided. So we wanted to run some data and see what is actually happening. So we set up in 3 locations around campus where people eat the most, we think. We set up compost, recycling, and trash, and we collected what people threw out. At the end of lunch, there's some pictures of Environmental Club sorting through the waste and making sure they're all in the right trash bins. And then we have pictures of the bags of waste being weighed, which is how we collected our data to see how much we have. We have some more pictures, just really fast, some more pictures of the waste we collected. You can see that bag of compost. It's all food that can be composted. There's some bags which show all of the waste we got. And then in the bottom right corner, there is the food we collected from our share table, which was implemented maybe a month ago. And it's a place where students can put unwanted food, like fruits and vegetables or unopened cans and stuff for other students to grab. So this is the data we collected. From total 1 day of school, we had about 140 pounds of waste. And only 3 of those were actually, only 3 pounds out of that 140 pounds were recycled, which is about 2%. You can also see that 75% of what we collected, which includes kitchen scraps, food waste, and the share table, are all compostable, yet right now they're just going directly into trash. So they're all organic compounds that are degradable. So maybe implementing kind of what they said, implementing better recycling and compost systems to help kind of divert this waste from going directly into the landfill. And I do want to mention that we're not just here for food waste. I know we have put a big emphasis on that, and that's because it's what's easy to see. It's all around our campus. But there are a lot of other ways, there are a lot of other aspects for environmental improvement around our campus. This was just an easy way to collect data that Environmental Club could do. So as we're reaching an ecological tipping point with respect to climate and biodiversity, students from all schools really want to help out with this. We believe, as we mentioned before, that being part of the CUSD district makes us leaders in the environmental aspect and in the educational aspect. And we want to continue on being leaders in our community, which means modeling by addressing these issues and showing other schools how we can do that. So there's some things like reducing our ecological footprint. Can we step up the pace of efforts to reduce carbon emissions and water use? And then loss of campus biodiversity. How do we ensure that landscaping decisions take biodiversity into account by planting species that support local ecosystems? And then there's the obvious one, though not the most important, food waste and recycling, trash on campus. How can we prioritize, design, implement systems that allow for more waste diversion? And these problems are not only on our campus, they are happening worldwide, and that can be seen with the recent COP26 conference. Countries from all over the world are coming together right now to solve these very issues, which relates back to being a leader in the community. If we want to be a role model, we can do that by addressing these issues head on. So as a community, we have been forced, and we're good at adapting rapidly to change, which can be seen through this past year through COVID, but we can apply this to environmental change because there has been a lot of environmental change recently. And there's a lot of little solutions we could do. We could get solar panels, we could get water catching techniques, maybe even green job training to help staff understand how to be more environmentally friendly and sustainable, or maybe even implementing some of this into classrooms. But the point is, there's a lot of things we can do for the environment, and as students who wish to follow through with these solutions, we encourage you to incorporate this into a mission vision, and make it a priority for the CUSD district so that we can all work together and follow down this road. So here are some pictures of students from CHS out kind of making change. The bottom pictures are a beach cleanup where we collected golf balls and trash on the beach. And then the top pictures are replanting native species that were lost, so helping spread that biodiversity. And the point is, there's a lot of kids at the high school, at the middle school, probably even elementary schools, who are so passionate about this and who are ready to go and take action for what we believe in. So here's a picture of a climate strike that was organized by CHS students a couple years ago, where the Environmental Club marched down the streets of Monterey with every other school on the Monterey Peninsula to advocate for their right to advocate for environmental sustainability and spread their word. The point is that kids care, and kids are fighting for what we believe in, and we will. And we know that you guys care just as much as us because of your mission statements and your beliefs and all of the great education we have right now on this topic. So we implore you to continue to keep sustainability as a top belief and keep going down this road and even elevate it further so that we can keep working together to improve our campus and our education and everything that surrounds this. And we understand how much effort is being put into this issue. We just want it to continue. Because speaking for the students, I know a lot of my peers and myself are worried, if not scared, of what is to come for our future. And we believe that it's our job to advocate for this and create change. And we feel like as a district, we want the district as a whole to do that. So thank you.
Thank you all so much for that presentation. Please stick around because I'm sure the board has some questions and some comments for you. So don't go anywhere.
We'd be happy to.
Before I pass it over to my fellow board members, I'll kick off the discussion. I just had a quick question and a comment. Thank you for presenting all of that data. I've actually never seen any statistics like that or any sort of pie chart that actually outlines how much waste we have. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. I also like how you outlined the challenges that our sites are experiencing, specifically the middle school and the high school, and then the solutions that you proposed. So my question for you is, because I'm sure you guys are in touch with other districts and other schools that are combating similar or if not the exact same challenges that we are. So are there any best practices out there, or what are other schools doing to help combat the trash and the composting and the recycling concerns that maybe we could pick up a few tips from?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different techniques we can use, and talking to different schools, there's a lot of variety, and some of it is better, some of it is worse. But I think if we were to go down those paths, there's a lot of research that would need to be done, and talking to people from those schools who have kind of tried it out and seen what works and what doesn't. So I think that's what we would need to do first. But there are a lot of ideas and a lot of techniques.
And also, I attended this meeting a couple months ago, and they were talking about how I asked them how they're getting students involved, and they just said that they're just really trying to get them connected with nature, so they really want to make it.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn it over to my fellow board members for any questions or comments for this group.
I just want to say thank you. I'm really proud of all you guys for stepping up. This is a little bit intimidating, so I'm really proud of you for that. But I think my biggest question is, do you feel you have a voice in our district, in your schools, and what is your platform for having that voice heard? I know as leadership or as the environmental club, you have your incredible teachers that help represent you and your voice, but how well do you feel heard?
So I know that whenever we have anything to say on any topic, or we're organizing a talk for something, it's immediately addressed by our principal, Mr. Morgan, and Ms. Catherine is put in the bulletin for everyone to hear. So I feel like there's a lot of action that surrounds the events and anything we want to organize, anything we have to say.
for example, just earlier today, we had the Walk for Water, which was organized by the Discord Space Live and the Environmental Club, and we had a really large turnout because consistently every day it was put in the bulletin every morning. Remember, the Walk for Water is on Wednesday, so I think that was a huge addition to it. So I feel like our voices are really big.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to jump in here too, and I am publicly saying I am totally committed to your efforts. This is my passion, this is my job, and I completely support everything that we can do to create less eco-anxiety, because believe me, that's a new term now. People are using this in my field. Eco-anxiety is real. Students are, and young people are really feeling the pressure of this changing environment that we're living in. And climate change is definitely a big part of that. So I am committed to doing whatever I can do to ensure that our district always has sustainability as a player in all of our actions and in all of our processes. I think that we've done a really good job, the district has, in creating a space where we do take the environment into concern. We have incredible campuses that outline and display the beauty of this area. And we're also very lucky to have administrators and a new superintendent and teachers that are fully committed to ensuring that what you're teaching in the classroom makes sense for when you leave the classroom. I also want to give a huge shout out to Mr. MB and Mr. Steele, who created a space for you guys to take charge and lead the discussion tonight. They were very much in support of letting you guys call the shots and make the presentation. But they also are very passionate, and I'm so lucky to be able to work with them on a regular basis. But they are two really exceptional people that really put the environment first. So I really want to give a shout out to the two of them. Thank you for all that you guys do on weekends, after school, countless hours to really make sure that our students are environmentally literate and ocean literate. So thank you. Appreciate it.
And yeah, and Miss Owen is a big help, and she always helps us organize whatever we want to make our school a better place, and she works really hard on that too.
I just wanted to make one comment. I like the fact that not only did you present what some of the problems were or what you're seeing as issues, but you also came up with solutions, and I really, really like that we're thinking about how we're going to deal with all of what we're dealing with. The eco-anxiety is something that I suffer from every once in a while, so I understand, and I really appreciate that. So thank you very, very, very much, and I like to share table. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I too like your dedication, ladies, to what you're doing. And it would be interesting for me to know a little more about what you think we can do as a board to kind of move you along. So I don't know what those priorities would look like, but I think a little more definition would be helpful for me. And I go back a long ways with this stuff, starting with the habitat here at Carmel Middle School. So onward and upward, and just let us know. The more shape it takes, the more we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We appreciated you taking time out of your evening for this presentation. Agenda item 5B, the environmental impact report update from Mr. Knight.
Well, I really don't want to follow students, but I guess I don't have a choice. Can the crowd hear me okay? Sometimes we can't tell up here. I want to make sure for this part you guys have got a good reception. Okay. And I made some notes, so I apologize. I might be reading some of this, so if I get monotone, just let me know. But I do want to take a few minutes tonight to give an update on our stadium lights project. We had a community member request an agenda item, which was great timing because this has obviously been on everybody's mind. And so I'm going to do my best to provide as much information as I can on what we've done so far. I also want to announce that following this presentation, because this is going to be an opportunity for the community to hear a little bit about what we've done since the draft EIR and my listening session, that I'm going to be holding another listening session for members of the community who are concerned about the stadium lights. I'm going to hold that meeting again at the CHS auditorium, and we're aiming for Wednesday, December 8th at 6 p.m. So we'll get that out, but Wednesday, December 8th at 6 p.m. And my plan for that is, again, just to listen to either any new or ongoing concerns about the project and to be able to continue that dialogue with our neighbors prior to any presentation on the final EIR. I'm going to ask again that that meeting is only attended by those who have concerns. I want an opportunity to hear from our community and engage in that conversation. As with last time, I'm also asking that our board members not attend, as this won't be an open meeting or a formally scheduled board meeting, but rather a conversation between the community and their superintendent. So just as a quick recap, I want to provide a little history. This was something that, thanks to Dan Paul, I was able to get up to speed on where this project came from. There were some questions that came in from the draft EIR and some questions from the community about how we got to this point. So a little history lesson for me and for everyone else. As a result of the development of the facilities master plan, which was created with input from a variety of stakeholders that included students, staff, parents, and the community, the concept of stadium lights was identified by both district staff and the Board of Education as a priority project, mainly due to the new late start law that requires implementation in the 2022-23 school year, so moving into next year. The district determined that the project would require an environmental impact report, which you'll hear me state as an EIR, and engaged with consultants to prepare the EIR as well as architects to prepare the design documents that were needed. At this point, the design documents have been completed by the architects, and they're currently in review at the Division of State Architects. The district published the notice of preparation for the EIR on May 12th, 2021, and during the following 30-day review period, the district received approximately 16 responses. In addition, the EIR scoping meeting was conducted at the May 26 school board meeting, and comments from both the review period as well as the scoping meeting were shared with the EIR consultants and addressed during that initial EIR process. So the draft EIR was completed and published in August of 2021, and comments were received during the following 45-day review period, and we continue to compile any new comments that come in. So the official period was 45 days, but we're still keeping a record of anything new that we got, like the handout that you guys all got this evening. Seeing several themes of concern coming from the draft EIR responses, I decided to host a listening session where I could hear firsthand the concerns and engage in a dialogue with those community members who had voiced concerns. I took the information from the written comments as well as my listening session, met with our Director of Facilities, Dan Paul. We've had meetings with our legal counsel, meetings with various local officials, and our consultant to discuss how we best mitigate those concerns. The plans for those for mitigation are intended to be included in the final EIR to be presented to the Board of Education. However, as this topic continues to create concern for our community, I'm again going to add that additional step of giving this update and then having another listening session next month to highlight many of the areas that we are either mitigating now or creating plans to mitigate. I wanted to share some of the following things that we have done. So there were concerns stated about light pollution and the need to have our stadium lights dark sky certified. So we applied for that dark sky certification, and we've received certification of our plans, and we will be applying for further certification if and when those lights are installed. Additionally, we've heard concerns about the pool lights, which although they're not necessarily part of this EIR, they are a concern to some of our neighbors. So we are currently researching and planning to update those lights to meet dark sky certification as well. We are also looking into exchanging the lights on the back of the high school and seeing how many of those lights are actually needed. My understanding is that in years past, we had an opportunity through a grant to upgrade to more energy efficient lighting, and when we did that, it made sense environmentally, but it was not appealing to our neighbors. So we are looking at how we continue to be energy efficient, but make the back of the school look more appealing for our neighbors. Parking was a large concern that was stated, not only parking during current day events, but also just everyday parking, and a concern that, as we've heard tonight and in the past, many felt would be exacerbated if we instituted night games. So we've worked with the designer and are currently planning for an additional 30 to 50 parking spots at the high school, which should eliminate the need for off-site parking on a daily basis. It's obviously not going to put much of a dent in event parking, but on a day-to-day basis, that should allow us to get all of our student and staff parking on the lot. We have also identified an unlocked gate in the back of the school that we believe is incentivizing students to park in the neighborhood. And we're also working and meeting with our facilities group on event parking spaces. So we're currently designing both places for an additional event parking as well as an event traffic plan that would include signage, shuttle opportunities, and an increased no parking area. One of the things that we've been working on is collaborating with county officials and other entities on supporting the community's desire for lower speed limits and increasing areas of no parking. So there are some areas right now around the high school that have no parking just in the morning, and that's not always enforced. And so a couple things we've talked with our county officials about are, A, do we need to increase those in length? Maybe they're only one portion of the street. Do they need to be more? And then is the time frame right, or do we need to change the time frame on that? And in addition, part of our traffic management plan that we talked with the county about would be the ability to have temporary no parking signs that we can put out during events. So the concerns about people just lining the streets on events, we're going to be able to actually put no parking signs there and enforce those. So during those night events when we're worried about increased traffic, we might have increased traffic around the high school, but we can limit that from happening in the neighborhood, we believe, through an event parking plan with additional staff, signage, directing people, for instance, over here to the middle school where we will have shuttles, and working with local law enforcement to make sure that if people are indeed parking next to no parking signs, that they are ticketed. I'm hoping Jim will like this part. So we've received confirmation that the MOU between CHP and the sheriffs they're going to allow us to let our local law enforcement officials, including our school resource officer, issue tickets surrounding the school. So we can start doing that on a daily basis as well as during events, and we believe we can change behavior. We would obviously tell our parents, tell our students, this is coming. We're going to tell you now you can't park there. Probably start out with a warning and then start ticketing folks. So we think between not incentivizing the daily parking on the back, working on the permanent no parking signs on kind of the side streets, bringing in additional no parking during events, whether that be daytime or nighttime, and then actually holding people accountable for following those signs, we believe that we can start to change that behavior. And so working on that through a traffic management plan and the county, we think will greatly reduce the frustration that our neighbors have with parking around the high school, not just during events, but on a daily basis. We're also working, everybody, Carl knows this, that part of land right in front of the high school that's owned by Caltrans of Is there anything we can do with that? We know people are illegally parking there, and we haven't had a lot of success in years past, but we are continuing to work with them to see what we can do. In addition, we're currently assessing the feasibility of a story balloon. Thank you to Fran and John for bringing that up. In the initial draft EIR, there was a request to put up some story poles to show the height of the light poles. That was going to be difficult with building permits and such, but Dan is currently looking into how we might be able to get large industrial balloons, weather balloons or something, to get them at the height of what the light poles will be so that our community can see, at least get an idea of what those will look like. And we are also, as was discussed tonight, discussing options to either limit or eliminate the ability for organizations to rent out the high school. We have facilities use policies, as you know, but we would like to be able to just say, we know event parking at the high school is an issue, and we're not going to rent the stadium out. We know that we have graduation, which is usually a big draw. We have homecoming, which is a big draw, and every other year we have the shoe game, which is a big draw. And we would need an enhanced traffic plan during those nights. But we really feel on your normal, 30 other events a year that with these changes, we can make a difference. So as these mitigation efforts come to fruition, Mr. Paul and I are meeting with both our legal counsel and our EIR consultant again to determine the adequacy of the efforts we've put forth before bringing the final EIR to this board for discussion. I do not think that's going to be by December. So I do not anticipate bringing the final EIR to you guys in December. I need to give our neighbors an opportunity to hear what we've said tonight, re-engage with them that first week of December, and get some feedback on what we're proposing, see if there's any new concerns that have come forward, and then sit down with Dan Paul and see if we can rectify any of those. So continuing to move forward, a lot of work with our community partners, a lot of great ideas and suggestions from our neighbors on what would help them out. And again, what we don't want is that frustration. We don't want that untenable situation from folks living next to the high school. So we're going to continue to, I'm sure I'll have some new information after that listening session, and we're going to keep working through trying to mitigate all of those strategies. And once we feel we've done that adequately, then we would bring that final EIR forward, but I just don't think we're there yet.
Thank you, Ted, for that detailed update on the EIR. I'd like to remind our members of the community that if you have any questions or comments about Ted's update, there are comment cards on the table over there. Those will be shared with Ted and the Board of Education if you'd like to go ahead and fill one out. And with that, I will turn it over to the board for any questions or comments from Ted about that update.
Hi, Ted. Yeah, I had a couple questions. I do want to say, too, that my junior at the high school got a ticket last week. And for someone that is scraping together, from his bottom of his car money to pay for gas, to fill up his gas tank, getting a ticket definitely makes an impact. So, and they're not cheap; they're expensive tickets. So, I think ticketing works for sure because he will not park in that same spot again. So my question, I have like 3 questions. Is there any flexibility on the height of the lights? Is that an option to maybe lower them, or?
I think I'm going to have to ask my good friend Dan Paul to help me on that one.
So the sports lighting is designed in a fashion that the higher you get, the lower glare you cast out. As you start to drop the lights, they tilt an angle and start to cast the light out. So the reason they get the height they have is you actually cross the beams and you don't have shadows when the kids are playing. You get more of a daylight effect.
Okay. Yeah, you might want to, sorry. Is there any current discussions about when the lights would turn off? Like, is there a fixed period of time when the lights would be off?
Yes, in the EIR, we have times that we would adhere to for our practices will end by this time, the lights will be off by this time. So it gives students a certain amount of time to get off the field. And for games, there's also a time in this EIR that says we're going to adopt a policy that says our games will end by this time and we will clear the field. What we may end up doing is what we do on the pool is we shut the lights on the muscle lights, tall pole, off at a certain time, but there's still the lower lights that they can be on the deck cleaning things up, but you don't need the entire pool lit up. So we'll have to look at how we would actually operate it, but we do have to adopt a policy about how we're going to, times we're going to use the lights.
And then that kind of leads into my last question is there any discussion about when the pool lights are on and when the football lights are on? I mean, is it better to have them on at the same time? You know, is there any flexibility in managing that so there's not 5 days of lights versus maybe you put them all in one night? Again, I'm not.
Right, that'll actually be a scheduling for the athletic department. I do the programming based on the schedules they give me at the start of a like water polo or swim season. I get a schedule of games and practices, and I schedule accordingly. If there's a night they're away, I shut the lights off. I program it for the competition level and the practice level. So those are all like operational things that we'll sort out as we start to move forward.
But just a thought, I mean, I don't know if that would make sense to coordinate in some way where the pool lights versus the football lights.
We've talked about that anyways with events, right? Because even if we have a night event that we might not, not a homecoming game where you get a ton of people, if you've got a lacrosse game and something in the theater and sub-club thing going on, you could end up having a parking mess. So we are really going to have to work to make sure we're alternating those nights so that we don't have as many lights on, we don't have as much parking, and so there's going to have to be, I'm sure Mr. Lyons is happy with me right now, there's going to have to be a lot of further coordination to make sure that we're not increasing traffic or light pollution on some of those nights.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions and thoughts. So did I hear you say that the goal is to get all of the students parking in the upper lot?
So the goal is to get all the students parking on the school site.
So lower lot will still be in use?
Correct.
And we're still looking at that, I hope, in terms of safety conditions and how that relates to students walking up while people are driving down. So
correct.
It's not new, but
yeah.
Dan
and I have an update for you when we get to our facilities meeting next week or the week after. Yeah. We have plans to rectify that.
Good. We can talk about that one. I also heard you say limiting the community use a little bit at the high school, I think, is a good idea, because we do have other facilities that are actually almost as good or worthy of community use. That might help the neighborhoods in general. And at some point, we're probably going to have to work with our facilities master plan that we have, which is sort of a long-range plan, and I don't know what that timeline looks like, but we have previously spent quite a bit of time thinking about our options, what we might do, where, and when. So maybe at some point we can get an update on that, Ted.
We have sorry, I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we have updated plans. Dan and Yvonne and I were able to work on that, I think a week or two ago. So we have updated plans for you and Tess when we have our facilities plan meeting in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, my last one is this. So what is the EIR timeline? You mentioned the December meeting. Is that still on for decision making, or have you delayed it to what point?
So the timeline was the draft EIR, and then you had a 45-day comment period, and then we needed time to rectify what was brought up in the draft EIR before we bring the final EIR forward. That was originally scheduled for December. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know if that was an estimated timeline or not, but I am stating tonight, I don't think I'm going to be at a point where I feel comfortable that we've either mitigated or planned to mitigate all of the concerns. For example, the traffic management plan is just going to take a little more time. A lot of these things, changing speed limits, changing no parking signs, adding partnerships with law enforcement, they're just not going to get done with Thanksgiving coming up and those types of things. So I'm just giving the board a heads up right now. I'm not going to feel comfortable unless something unless I invent a time machine. I'm not going to have it ready by December.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You got a lot of moving parts, and I get that. Is there a projected date where we might be looking for that?
I think a lot of that's going to depend on what I hear on December 8th. If our community is feeling pretty good about the things that we've put in place and it's just a matter of getting those done, it could be January. If we have to go back to the drawing board and do more, there is a time where we have to make a decision, or because if you guys decide, yes, we want to move forward with these because of late start, obviously by August, we've got to be ready to go. So there is a construction timeline that's squeezing us on the other end.
And finally, there's an awful lot of creative thinking here, really. Hats off to the effort and really looking at just about everything you can, given what we have to work with at the high school in terms of space. So, I'm impressed.
I want to thank our community. A lot of the creative thinking has come from the dialogue and collaboration that we've had. They're the ones who are living through that, and I think understanding the desire of our students and how we find a win-win, how we give our students what they need out of their high school experience, and how we improve their quality of life as a neighbor of our high school.
I have a couple questions. Is there any effort from the county, because I'm hearing this is a daytime, a daily issue as well as far as safety on the road. Why wouldn't they consider doing permanent no parking, longer areas of no parking even on one side of the road so parking can be on the other side? And who would patrol that? Because if we designate our SRO officer to go out and write tickets, that could be a full-time job.
So we talked to the county about that, and that was actually one of our thoughts, because we want to be able to do no parking during events, but there's also that daily need, and that's why they had talked about, do they need to change or expand some of those current no parking zones? They are interested in knowing how it's working. I think it is working in some areas and not in others, so they are willing to expand it. I believe they're willing to look at the speed limit. And we talked about that. Well, what do we do about residents, right? If there's no parking, does that mean they can't have people over? And so we talked about, could you do one side of the road? Could you do residential parking only? And so I had given the example when I first moved out here. I went to the boardwalk in Santa Cruz, and there's these signs that are like, you can only park here if you're a resident. And we brought that up, and Dan was in that meeting. I felt the county was very receptive to anything that would help. And I have some ideas on patrolling that I don't think it has to be full-time all day long. I think once you change behavior, that's going to be the tough work, and then it's just a matter of keeping that up and monitoring it.
And my other question is, I hear that trash is a big issue below as well. And are there any trash receptacles down there that are available to, the students coming in or off of campus? Or is there a way to monitor that? Or are you hoping that once we take away that access, they won't be coming through that gate down below? So
the latter. I'm afraid if we put a trash can down there, we're further incentivizing.
Yeah,
I do believe
true.
Once we address that gate and work on the signage and change some behavior through fines, I don't think they're gonna be parking down there because that's a long walk once that gate is locked.
Yeah, that's true.
And I just, you know, that in addition to signage, I think will stop that. But we also talked about, you know, on game nights and things like that, I believe as many of the clubs and things like we have, we could probably get kids to go around and monitor trash and some of those things. I know as part of kind of an event management plan, that's one of the things we've talked about is having more staff out monitoring the neighborhood, having, you know, whether you have a cleanup crew come in on Saturday morning or what have you. There's a lot of creative ideas that different school districts do.
And my last question, Dan, is do we currently have screens on the back fences behind the school? Or is it all just
There are
landscaping?
There's landscaping. There's a few screens that were put there a number of years ago. What I've noticed is I've been looking at the area. We used to have a lot of Monterey pines there. And what I'm seeing in the pictures that we've gotten from the neighborhood is you can really tell the Monterey pines have died and we've removed them. So we're actually looking at some tree replacement as part of the project as well.
Yeah, and we talked, with some of the parking back there, we've already talked about some fence slats and things like that that would block that view. And I think, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's name in the gray, but I will take you up on your offer to come see what the back of the school looks like, because I think that'll give us a good view of what else we need to change back there.
Do you mind if I? First of all, I wanted to ask a question just to clarify something. Did you say that you were talking about the community not renting the facilities because of parking? Was that?
I don't understand why we would exacerbate the problem. If we don't have parking there on a daily basis and it's a non-CUSD school function, I don't know why we would do that to our community. So we're going to look into the feasibility of whether it's blackout dates or blackout facility or what have you. We're kind of investigating that now.
Okay, the thing that comes to mind about that is that our community is sometimes limited in terms of its arts, access to the arts, and like particularly during the Bach Festival and things like that, in order to be able to have enough venues, they sometimes have to, you know, rely on other facilities outside of the scope of the city. And I think that we, as a community partner, I think that we need to be aware of the fact that sometimes our facilities might be able to enhance the community's involvement. And I think that you might want to think about the fact that if we have the community coming onto our campuses, that they might actually appreciate it and really get to love our campuses, because I think that our campuses really offer a lot. So I think that I want you to just maybe to think about the discussion about that one before just saying we're going to nix that one. I understand where you're coming from on that, so I would understand if you had to do that, but I would say please think about them, because I know that a lot of people like will walk on our campus and do the track before school starts and things like that, and they really like access to that. The trash can, I will say yes, please, we cannot have a trash can down there. I know that that Carmel Rancho Center down there, there's a lot of people that come up, bring all their trash and just dump it. I've seen it several times, and I think that would just be an incentive for people to come along and just, oh, I'm gonna just dump my trash here rather than paying for more trash service. I think that the permanent no parking really would impact the neighborhood. I mean, we're coming up to the holidays now, and I'm looking at having a whole bunch of people, and I'm going to be using my cul-de-sac. And I think that it would possibly impact the neighborhood to just say, nope, there's no parking at all. So I like the idea of having, you know, the neighbors be able to access their own space that they have there. And I really want to say thank you very much for all the time and effort that you're spending on this, and Dan as well. I know how much time you're spending on this, and because creative ideas, really great listening skills. I'm absolutely awed by how you are able to, you know, listen and listen and listen and listen to everything, and then come up with these creative solutions. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ted and Dan, for all of your efforts in this project. Thank you very much. And that was an information only item, fellow board members. So we are going to move on to agenda item 5C. This is our Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. So Ted, if you want to tee this one up. And again, this is an information only item for the Board of Education.
Correct. So this is a quick one. So recently, the California Department of Education publicized an education grant that is intended for the professional development of teachers, support staff, and administrators. The grant's worth just south of $900,000 for our school district. The application of the grant asked for a plan on how to spend the money over the next 5 years within 10 broad categories. Because we're currently refining our core ideology, setting our vision, and beginning our strategic planning process, we don't know what professional development that we're going to need until we chart a course forward. So the plan that we've created explains that upon completion of our strategic direction, we will refine the grant dollars to meet the staff development needs required to carry out the strategic plan. And our understanding in working with those folks is that those things can be changed over time. So we didn't want to turn away almost $900,000, but we also weren't going to create a plan for plan's sake, and as Blaze says, let the tail wag the dog. So we felt this was a great compromise, and I just want to thank my cabinet and our staff. They put a lot of time and effort into really trying to figure out how we stick to how we said we were going to behave and lead and not give away money. And they did a great job just struggling through how to make this work. So very proud of the work they did on this.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
I just had a comment. I read through kind of the initial plan, and it was great to see some of the trainings that were being offered. And in particular, I was really happy to see the implicit bias or the unconscious bias training, which I've had the opportunity to participate in a couple times through my job. And it's a remarkable training to go through. It really provides you with a different lens and a different perspective. And, you know, I often would say, oh, I understand, or I don't have a bias. And sure enough, you go through these trainings and it's just shocking how just a different perspective and a different lens, and providing an opportunity to just have a touch base with that with every approach and every decision that you make really makes a difference. So I was really happy to see that in there, and I know it's benefited me greatly, and so I'm very happy to know that we can offer that to staff and teachers.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 5D. This is the approval of the December 15th, 2021 date as the annual organizational meeting date. And Ted, I'll let you take this one as well.
I'd like to thank my team for helping me out with all these tonight. So I'm asking the board to approve December 15th, which is our next board meeting, as the date for our yearly organizational meeting, where we will elect board officers, appoint board members to committees, authorize agents to sign for the district, and adopt next year's board meeting schedule, which hopefully you've seen in your packet.
May I please get a motion to approve the date of December 15th, 2021 as the annual organizational meeting?
So moved.
I second.
Board President Sarah Hines?
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur?
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen?
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nothbar?
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini?
So as Ted just mentioned, agenda item 5E, we have the printed calendar here. This is the first reading of the schedule of Board of Education meetings for the period of July 2022 through June 2023. This is an information item only. So I'll turn it over to you, Ted, but I assume if there's any concerns that anybody has about the dates, now would be the time. Not now, but I mean, yeah.
Correct, yeah, this is an opportunity for you to see. We tried to get very consistent here, where I know Carl wanted more than one meeting a month, but he compromised with me and he's okay with one a month, but aiming for really that third Wednesday every month so we can be consistent. There's a couple months where it has to happen earlier, usually because of dates, either with the budget or something like that. And then 2 meetings in June when we have a little more business to get over. This doesn't preclude us from calling a special meeting or an emergency meeting or a work session, but this would be the business of the board, is this one meeting each month. So we also looked at, you'll probably see there on the bottom, the option of starting at 5:30 with open session and public comments and moving closed session to the end of the meeting. So that way we can get right to work. I've noticed as we've had more public engagement, sometimes folks show up at 4:30 and think the meeting started, because if you're not a routine board meeting attendee, you see 4:30 and you show up, and I think that's probably not real inclusive for our community. So maybe starting with the official meeting, public comments all at the start like we've been doing, and then have closed session when it's mainly just the business of the board at the end. That way other folks can go home.
And then how is the open session or the closed session reported out on? When does that happen?
We would come back after closed session and report out. And that's how every board I've been a member of has done it in the past. You just come back out and report out.
So it would be exactly how we do it right now, just flipped upside down.
Ted, are you sure we have enough meetings on here?
Carl, you said you wouldn't do this to me. You said you were good with 1 meeting a month. We can add more if you need to, but I think we can get our work done in 1 meeting a month. We've been doing pretty good.
Okay, agenda item 5F. This is the first reading and approval of updated board bylaw BB 9100 for the organization. This one we will take action on, so I know my fellow board members have already had a chance to read through this, so I'll kick it off to you, Ted.
Yes, thank you. I am asking the board to revise current bylaw BB 9100 to align with the collective commitments that we made in our last retreat. You know, I have a few times kind of just expressed my concern about my ability to meet the demands of this job in terms of bringing stability to the district, which I know has been very important when we elect new board leadership every year. Every district where I've been, board leadership doesn't change yearly. In fact, board leadership often stays stable for quite a while, sometimes as much as 2 4-year terms. And that helps provide stability. It helps provide efficiency in both governance and the operation of the district. So in our board retreat, I know we had agreed that we didn't need to change board leadership every year, and these revised bylaws allow us to meet our commitment and still stay within the law of electing board leadership every year, but it doesn't force us to change that every year. So it gives us the ability, if some board later on wanted to go back to that, they could, but this board does not have to. And so this is one of those where I'm asking for a first reading and then a vote, because if we're going to change this, we need to do it this meeting so that at our organization meeting in December, we're in compliance.
Great, thank you, Ted. Are there any comments for Ted on this? If none, may I please receive a motion to approve the first reading, or I'm sorry, approval of the updated board bylaw BB 9100. Just need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the first reading of the bylaw 9100.
I second. Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nothbar.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini. Carl says yes.
And with that, thank you, everybody, for sticking around for the end of this meeting. Thank you to our community members who stuck with us as well. And I will go ahead and